I did it, guys. I messed up. I did exactly what I did not want to do. I specifically, and I'm not just saying this, did not want to go down the rabbit hole of reading comments on social media about Charlie Kirk, but I did. I started reading them and then I just kept reading and reading and reading. And honestly, it drove me bananas. There are so many things being said about Charlie Kirk, that he hated black people, that he was saying that it's better off for black people to be in slavery, and that gun deaths are well worth it for the Second Amendment, and things that have been taken out of context. And let me just say first and foremost, by the way, I am not a support Charlie by all means, no matter what he says type of guy. I'm not a support anyone by all means except for Jesus, okay? So if it turns out that anyone is a racist or hates black people or takes the death of people around them lightly, saying that gun deaths are fine, they're well worth it, whatever, as long as we get to keep our guns. If anyone who is saying that, I would oppose and be against, okay? So I'm not trying to defend somebody beyond what's worth defending. However, what I'm also against is taking someone who I believe had right good intents and taking sound bites and quotes out of context in a deceptive way that does not truly lay out their position. What I'm interested in is what is their position, not how can we take a sound bite from their conversation and make it seem like their position is this. That's deceptive, that's lies, that's gross, that's ruining someone's reputation. In this case, someone who just died for no reason. And so if somebody, by the way, if somebody wants to show me a clip in context that shows him saying racist things, I will denounce what he said as well. However, the things that are being thrown out are taken so out of context, and this is somebody who had spent thousands of hours speaking online. Whenever somebody spends tons of hours that's out there in the internet, you can find things and pull it from online and take it out of context and make it seem like his position is deeper, darker, or worse than what he was actually saying. And I'm against that, whether it's people on the right or the left, anybody's reputation should be tied to their actual position. It should be tied to reality. And so a lot of people on social media are saying things that I believe are just totally out of context. I don't believe that many people are saying it because they just want to ruin somebody just because. I believe that they really believe these things because they heard them from either mainstream media or people that were interested in twisting the truth. And now they're parroting it, not realizing there's deeper context to it. So I want to go through some of these, but let's be real and judge their actual position. That's what I would want for me. That's what I try to do to people on the right and the left. I've tried to do that with President Trump. I've tried to do that with Joe Biden. One of my most recent videos that I posted on this channel was 5 things I respect about Joe Biden as he left office. I'm not a Joe Biden supporter. However, there are things that I respect about who he is. And I can say those things. And I can say those things about Trump because I'm trying to be honest about where people are coming from. So I hope you hear my heart. I hope you don't feel like I'm just trying to be partisan. I'm not a partisan person. There are Republicans I disagree with. There are Democrats I disagree with. And I am a biblical person. I try to be based on biblical values, not perfectly. I miss it and I need to grow. However, that's what I try to do, and I try to judge things based on that. So let me go through a few of the big ones that if you're looking through social media comments, which I don't recommend you do, you will hear some of these ones. One of the biggest ones, and if you see me looking down, I'm looking down at my computer, which has some of these things written down. But one of the biggest claims that you will see is that Charlie Kirk said that black people were better off as slaves. Okay, when you take that out of context, that conversation, that sounds like he's saying that he wishes black people were still enslaved, that would be better, and all of that. And that is totally a lie of what he was trying to say. If you go back and watch the video, which by the way, all of these things, I encourage you to go back to the source of the quote and actually dig in. Anybody who's interested in getting to the real position of a person will encourage people to dig in. Anybody who's interested in lying about someone or making their position to be different than what it actually is, wants you to just look at sound bites and small quotes. I'm encouraging you to dig into all of this and let me know if you find something, and I would love to see it that's different than this stuff. In that conversation, Charlie Kirk was saying that in some ways the black community was stronger in the 1940s. He said in the same sentence, slavery was evil and wrong. He acknowledged slavery was evil. What he was saying was that oppression was worse, and yet black fathers were more present in the home, and black on black crime was lower, and overall crime from the black population was lower during a more oppressed time. Was he saying, therefore, it would be better if they stayed in slavery? No, he said in the same sentence, that's evil. The point that he was trying to make was he was trying to say, you can't just say that the increased fatherlessness in Black homes or the increase of crime from the Black community, you can't just say, well, that's because of oppression, because oppression has gone down and yet those things have gone up. So his whole point of what he was saying was that we need to support the Black community in a way that will help these things be strengthened without just saying, well, it's because of oppression, because it can't just be from oppression if oppression has gotten better or gone down, and yet these things have increased as the oppression's gone down. So it can't just be a direct result of that. Now, you can agree with that position or disagree with that position, but that is a totally different argument than saying Black people should still be enslaved, which is the gist of what you get from the quote. If out of context, you just hear that he said Black people were better off as slaves. That's a out of context quote. I encourage you, go watch the whole clip and the whole conversation. And that's not what he was saying. Another claim is that Kirk called for executing gay and trans people. This is just an outright lie. And if you find the clips or the quotes, please send them to me in context, always in context. I would love to read them. But no such quote exists in this. Kirk opposes gender transitions for minors and same-sex marriage on religious grounds, but advocated for tolerance and debate, not violence. Okay, another one is that Kirk mocked gun violence survivors, saying that gun violence is worth it to preserve the Second Amendment freedoms. He was citing in that conversation 2 million annual defensive gun uses. So the way they're saying it is that Kirk almost painting the picture like he gleefully said, like, hey, to keep the Second Amendment so we can stay armed, deaths are worth it. And that's how people are quoting it. But what he was saying was that actually being able to have arms with us, there's over 2 million annual defensive gun uses. And so even though it's tragic, it ends up being worth it to retain the guns because there's so many lives saved. So he wasn't in a gleeful way saying, hey, as long as we get cool firearms, it's worth it for people to die, which is how the picture is being painted. But rather he was saying that there are some really unfortunate trade-offs. And in this case, the amount of people that guns defend is a trade-off that he believes is worth it. You can disagree with that, but it's different than how it's being framed by the media or on social media. So anyway, you can probably tell that I'm a little bit heated, and I'm not heated because I don't want to have conversations with people about these things. And listen, I could be wrong about some things, okay? I'm heated because I feel like I'm watching a man who attempted to do right with the truth, with biblical values, being smeared after he's died and he can't defend himself. And that feels gross to me. Again, I'm all for taking clips in their full context and trying to really get to somebody's position and then judge their position. I'm all for that, and judge their position rightly and fairly. If their position is gross, judge their position as gross, but don't frame their position in a way that's not accurate. That's a lie. That's an evil way that our media does it, and it happens on both sides oftentimes, and it has to stop. We shouldn't frame people's positions on purpose in ways that aren't accurate. It's not right to people. It's not a godly thing to do. God is about truth and justice. And if you want to judge someone's position, again, as bad, judge it as bad, but judge their true position of what they're trying to communicate. So anyway, I rambled. I raved a little bit here. I hope this makes sense. I hope you hear my heart. You may disagree with me wildly, and I'm open to that and okay with that. You may have more clips or things to send my way to watch in context, and I'm happy to do that. And my desire is to get to the truth, not to whatever feeds my own personal bias and all of that. So I appreciate you all. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I hope this made sense. And I'll see you on the next Jonathan Dearman Show. Bye-bye.